Hello there, and welcome back to Writing from Scratch with me, Tom. On today's episode, we're going to be starting our journey on how to create great characters, and we're starting that by looking at mind maps. Now, most of you are probably already familiar with how to use a mind map. We've probably used them at school or at work in order to visualize and write down and organize your ideas on paper. They are easy to understand and very quick to produce. So on today's video, I want to talk about how we can use mind maps to start planning a character. Now, characters are complicated, they're multi-layered, and they have lots of different facets to them, and using a mind map is just the start. In future episodes, I am going to talk about how you can create and develop convincing, realistic, and interesting characters. But for today, we're just starting on the bare bones, creating that skeleton that you can then build upon to create the best characters for your books. So to begin with, when you're planning a character, there are 5 things that you want to focus on this mind map. They are their physical traits, their mental traits, their skills and attributes, their motivations, and their backgrounds. By focusing on these 5 elements, we're able to create a clear and holistic view of who this character is, what kind of person they are, where they come from, and where they could be going in the future. This is really useful for helping you to develop that character later and keeping in mind who they are at their core. So to explore this a little bit further, I'm going to be using an example that we're all very familiar with, which is the character of Harry Potter. I want to break him down into those 5 constituent parts so that you can see how a good, convincing, interesting character can be created using a mind map. Let's get started. So for physical characteristics, well, he's scrawny. He has scrappy black hair. He has green eyes like his mother. His iconic lightning scar. Those round-framed glasses too. And usually he dresses in a modest to scruffy way, especially at the start of his story. And already, hopefully most of us can see that image that we have of Harry Potter in our heads, either from the films or from the books. For mental traits, I would class Harry as honest, he's brave, he's loyal, especially to his friends, but he's also loyal to his school and to his commitments. As for negative things, it's important to look at these too, and I would say that he can be emotional at times, particularly concerning his parents. Other than that, he's pretty smart, but he's not a genius. And I guess also we could say that he's kind, especially to those around him, but not only to his friends, but everybody that he meets, he tries to be kind. Skills and attributes wise, Harry is a rather unremarkable character. Well, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, as it allows him to be a great blank slate for us as the reader to project onto when experiencing the world with him for the first time. So don't be scared that your character maybe doesn't have many skills or attributes, it's very common. However, for Harry, I would definitely say his main skills that he picks up pretty naturally are his relationship building ideas. He's very good at making friends with people, especially Hermione and Ron. His spellcasting ability seems to be pretty good, and we know straight away from the first book that he's very good at broomstick flying. He's picked for the school's Quidditch team, so we can definitely put that down as a skill in his early character. As for his background, we don't actually know as much as we think we do. We know some of the core things that formed him as a person. So, for example, we know that he's an orphan. His parents were killed by Lord Voldemort. We know that he grew up in the care of his auntie and uncle who were not particularly kind to him. We know that he received a lot of hand-me-downs and abuse from his cousin Dudley, and that he doesn't really have any friends before starting Hogwarts. But other than that, going into the story, there isn't a lot of background that we know about Harry. We know that he has had interactions with people like Dumbledore and Hagrid, but a lot of this is going to be developed later, and that's fine because it leaves us room to make additions as the story progresses. So finally, Harry's motivations. Well, we know that he's certainly motivated about trying to make his parents proud. That's often a recurring theme that he moves back to, that he's trying to do what they would have done. He's often motivated by a sense of justice and fairness. He stands up to bullies and he tries to do the right thing in most situations. There's no doubt he has elements of revenge motivating him too. And other minor motivations are things like a longingness to fit in. He's been a loner for much of his childhood, so he does have this need for friends. Finding love becomes a little driver later on, but not at the beginning. And there's also this constant pressure that we can see throughout the books to live up to this moniker of being the chosen one. So that's definitely a motivation for him. So when we step back and look at all of this information about Harry, we can see that we have the making of a well-rounded and potentially interesting character. So the real struggle and the real challenge here when creating a character is turning this idea of a person in our head into a fully formed character in words on paper. So for me, the mind map is a great place to start. Like I said, this isn't the finished character. Harry is much more than what we've explored about him today. But it's really important to have that skeleton, to have the bones of the person so that we can then build on them and flesh them out moving forward. So even though it might seem a bit simplistic, using a mind map is a great place to start. It's also important to remember you can come back to these mind maps for reference, and you can add to them as well. As you feel that more traits are needed or more physical distinguishers are necessary, you can come back and add that in. And having the mind map with all of this information about that character in one place allows you to remain consistent with who they are, with things like eye color and hair color and what their motivations are. It really allows you to keep your finger on the pulse and not lose track of this unique character. So that's all we have time for today. I hope this has been useful for you to see how we can use a mind map to create a character, but remember you can use mind maps for other things, such as creating locations or creating story ideas as well. So don't be afraid to experiment using a mind map. But please let me know down below, have you used a mind map to create a character before, and what did you think of doing it? Other than that, thank you very much for watching today's video. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.